Hello and welcome back to Let's Play Rogue Trader with me, Bring It On. Let's knock out some colony projects. Lord Captain, the Crucible's great sculpting is underway. Milestone is being transformed right before our eyes into a fertile world with lush groves and clean water. However, there is evidence that the Crucible has also created humans. From the mouth of the relic came several thousand people who, speaking an archaic form of Low Gothic, demanded to be given orders. They cultivate land, build houses and production facilities with obedience, and in general, have a remarkable range of skills and knowledge. However, it seems that these people completely lack their own free will, and for this, the monks have named them Touched. There's a split among the believers, though many call it a miracle sent by the Emperor himself, who wants to quickly put the Touched to work. A part of the population is frightened by these soulless creatures born from the ancient machine. They demand that the planet's learned men intervene in the great sculpting, and find a way to stop the production of the Touched. How dangerous are these Touched? They do not appear to pose a threat. The autopsy of several specimens has shown that they are physiologically identical to ordinary humans. No traces of corruption or xenotampering were found either. However, their obedience is a double-edged sword. They obey any orders without knowing or caring who gives them, and thus, nothing prevents a cunning intruder from bending them to their will, creating an army of obedient slaves or spies at their disposal. What think my officers and advisors? They are born by the relic of St. Cognatius, which means they please the Emperor. We have to remind people of it. Arrange a public ceremony of tonsure to initiate the Touch into the Order of the Hammer, and a service dedicated to reading parables about the acts of St. Cognatius and his followers. Why don't you make the first move and assemble a mighty force from these Touched ones? If they are so obedient and diligent, then they will make fine troops. Assign a little commander to each squad to keep an eye on them, and these strange people will turn from a threat into mighty defenders of the Imperium. Lack of will. Registering a high probability of manufacturing failure within the Crucible's sacred processes. It is recommended to dispose of the finished batch of units and halt production of new ones. The algorithm of the great sculpting requires further examination. Argenta's option gives us +1 complacency and efficiency and icons of the Touched. Circuit icons painted by the Touched adorn the ship's decks. Enemy critical hit chances and warp damage against the flagship are reduced by 30%. Then Ulfar's option, +2 security, and Crucible-born Tempest. The Touched who were recruited as enforcers gave form to the ancient knowledge stored in their minds by modifying the Void Ship's weapons using sacred archaeotech. Long-range dorsal plasma macro cannons which fire 2 shots, dealing 26 damage per shot. That doesn't seem very good. I'd have to look at the other dorsal weapon we have equipped. Then this option gives us +1 efficiency, -1 complacency. That's essentially Argenta's option, but worse. And then Pascal's option, we get +1 complacency and security, -1 efficiency, and wisdom extractor. All allies gain +5% armor and 5% critical hit chance. The archaeotech secrets extracted from the heads of the Touched were given to the gunsmiths tending the Rogue Trader's armory. Well, as a dogmatic character, I'm going to go with option 3. Hold a public tonsure ceremony for the Order with a service dedicated to St. Cognatius. I'll draft a detailed plan of the ceremony and hand it over to the abbot. Under the guidance of the brothers and sisters of the Order of the Hammer, the Touched carried on with their toils, cultivating the land and building new settlements. The public induction of the Touched, along with their diligent service, eventually solidified their image in the minds of the people as the executors of St. Cognatius' will sent down to... That's a heck of a sentence. As the executors of St. Cognatius' will sent down to the faithful to ease their burdens during the great sculpting. Any concerns about the Touched possibly posing a danger were completely dispelled. Alright, rank 5 projects. We can't do Sacred Comet because we don't have 4 weapons. I think I see Twin Tails right there. So the holy remains of the monastery, which was damaged by the launch of the Crucible, will be transferred to Falstone's moon, which will be equipped with drives and turned into a Sacred Comet. This will give us Blessing of St. Cognatius. All non-Xenos allies gain a +5 bonus to all their characteristics and skills. and +4 security for all colonies. Holy Defenders. The monastery damaged by the Crucible will be rebuilt. Meanwhile, the monks will begin the process of acknowledging the kinship of St. Cognatius with the von Valancius line. That would give us +5 profit factor, +4 complacency for all colonies, and Arbitrator Solomon Veer's armor. When the wearer hits a criminal enemy, how do you determine who's a criminal enemy? That enemy gains +1 stack of the Perplex effect for 2 rounds. The base armor property, Coercion, divided by 10 deflection. And it's heavy, so that's perfect from a main character. His Coercion is his main skill besides Persuasion. And Reliquary. Oh, that gives us a Thunderhammer too. Alright, we'll look at that in a moment. Reliquary. The monastery, having been damaged by the launch of the Crucible, will be transferred aboard the von Valancius flagship as a great reliquary and shelter for the Order of the Hammer. This will give us +5 profit factor and Righteous Charge. All collisions caused by the Thunderhammer's pushing attacks deal +300% more damage. All targets hit by this Thunderhammer must pass an agility resistance test with a +10 bonus or fall prone. That's pretty good, and I wouldn't mind having a new Thunderhammer, but my main character is not attacked that frequently. He's an officer turned Vanguard, so he uses most of his AP buffing allies and giving them extra turns, so I'm thinking this is better. And we get a ton of deflection off of it. Let's do Holy Defenders. For the Arbitrator Solomon Veer's armor, 5 profit factor, and 4 complacency for all colonies. And it costs 9 plasteel and 9 people. I think all these fit with the dogmatic character that I'm playing, so I like the callback to Warhammer Fantasy here. Yeah, we'll go with this. So I believe the Mechanicus also gives us a new Thunderhammer once we build up some more reputation with them, so Holy Defenders. Oh, Lord Captain. The situation on Faustone requires your attention. One of the servants tasked with the Crucible's maintenance has declared publicly that he has been liberated of all worldly concerns, for he is none other than the reincarnation of St. Cognatius. There's some extremely questionable reports claiming that he has performed miracles. Supported by a congregation garnered by preaching, he has asked for your lordship's permission to depart from Faustone with the Crucible in tow, so he may continue St. Cognatius' work, and use the relic to transform worlds, once true to the faith of the Imperium, into lush, splendorous gardens. It goes without saying that such a generous gift to the Cronus Expanse could bring great renown to your lordship, but at a heavy cost. Faustone would turn back into a wasteland, and you'd lose the prestige that comes with having charge over such a valuable relic. I mean, if he's going to continue his work, why not just leave it here and keep this faithful planet as a garden? What do we know about this so-called St. Cognatius reincarnate? Tiber Hike, a technomat from Footfall. He now prefers to be called Brother Purevoice, an unremarkable commoner with no family, gaunt, unkempt, covered in scabs from working the Crucible. He became obsessed with it from the day it was discovered. He never left his maintenance post, never rested, barely ever slept, fasting and living off stimulants and condensate from the relic's cooling circuit. Then he started having revelations, and eventually saw the truth, or he went completely insane. His sermons are directed at commoners, appealing to them for humility and mercy. He often speaks about his former life as a saint, and many of these tales match known legends about St. Cognatius. No anarchical pronunciations or radical deviations from the creed have been found in his words. Yet. I wish to hear the opinions of my advisors. I've had ample experience with saintly saviors like him in the past. Whatever great cause they proclaim as their mission, they genuinely, naively believe that people really do need them. We ran up enough orphans and lepers who would trip over themselves to beg our prophet for salvation. He'll soon forget all about the Crucible and his holy mission. I know a few guilds of professional beggars who would be delighted to offer their services to us. False prophets in the streets are a common occurrence. Their sermons breed turmoil, riots, and acts of disobedience. The Inquisition recommends that such unstable agents be isolated and quietly removed. The archenemy's lies take on many guises, but the Emperor's miracles are 100-fold stronger. On more than a few occasions, don't just put my own words in there. He has bestowed epiphanies upon the faithful, even those of the humblest origin. I myself bear the name of a poor orphan who is granted miraculous powers by his grace. So give me time. I'll find you the most loyal agents to escort Brother Pure Voice on his travels. They'll keep him safe if he is pure, or punish him should they sense deceit in his words. But I have a feeling that his rebirth is a true wonder. Alright, so Heinrichs will give us St. Cognatius's Ostensorium. Whenever the wearer suffers an attack from a demon or warp damage, they inflict burning 8 to all adjacent enemies. All burning effects inflicted by the wearer deal double damage if they target demons or psychers. And Jai's option gives us Consecrated Weapons. The Pure Voice Prophet has blessed the ship's weapons. All void ship weapons except torpedoes deal 10% more damage. And Argenta. Well, hello there. We get +2 Profit Factor, Triumph of Faith. On a successful hit with this weapon, the target must pass a toughness resistance test with a -10 penalty or become stunned. If the target fails the test, this attack has no cooldown. And Pure Voice Fame, Rogue Trader gains +15 bonus to all their skills. Efficiency -2. I'm gonna go with Argenta's option. Because I get what I want out of it, so. And it's the dogmatic option, I think. I mean, you could argue that Heinrichs is too. I'll get to it immediately. I'll choose the best people for this task, the most devoted. Having loaded the Crucible onto the requisitioned void ship, Pure Voice Prophet gathered up his flock and set out for distant worlds to spread his word. The spiritual authority of the Order of the Hammer suffered as a result, and the loss of the Crucible sowed substantial unrest among the populace. Before departing, the preacher expressed his appreciation by sending the Lord Captain a gift, a relic that, according to his own claims, once belonged to his previous incarnation. The Stern Guard selected by Sister Argenta vigilantly provide protection for the Prophet, ensuring that his thoughts remain pure. Nice. And I guess we can't do this other project. Or can we? It didn't stop me. Alright, let's put on my new armor. Yeah, that looks pretty cool. And my new Thunder Hammer does 10 more max damage, 5 more minimum damage. Did it change appearance by chance? Probably not. Oh, it does. Heck yeah. Alright, Janus. A Lord Captain. The Order of Xenos punitive unit, led by acolyte Lanet Zhu, has arrived on Janus. The Inquisition forces have already taken control of the Governor's Palace, and intend to deal with the anomalies on Janus. Heinrichs. Why was I not notified of their arrival in advance? I'm surprised that they have informed us of their arrival at all. It demonstrates a semblance of trust. How much did the Inquisition sniff out? The initial interrogations have set Lanet Zhu on the tracks of the wretches, for the anomalous region. But our people continue to dig deeper, so to speak. What thank you, my officers and advisors. Cooperating with the Inquisition would do us more good than trying to hide the current misfortunes of the colony. I can send them a message to keep us informed about the interrogation, as a favor. If only we could throw them a bone, let them find the evidence they want, one that we can get by without. The rest can be concealed away from their inquisitive eyes. Like a sand lizard shedding its tail, sometimes we must see the battle to win the war. Yeah, let the Inquisition do their job. We get a Hexagrammic Grace. Grants +10 Logic, +10 Coercion, and +10 Persuasion. If I do that, we lose -1 efficiency, complacency, and security. To serve Janus and the Von Valancius dynasty. After Lady Zhu had set up her headquarters at the governor's palace, she began to investigate the situation on Janus. All this feeling guilt for their crimes before the Emperor could only stay silent and pray. During her investigation, Lady Zhu has been able to establish that the genetic changes in the organisms of the sickly creatures have been caused by the effects of mysterious substances secreted into the water by the Xeno obelisks. These substances did not contaminate the water until recently, as shown by the analysis of the Magos biologists. The same Xeno obelisks appear to be linked by a chain of energy communications, also serving as sources of unknown radiation that seem to have caused the outbreak of the contaminated growth in the currently uncontrolled sector of the planet. This also seems to be causing the appearance of the mysterious phantoms. Ediju suggested that there is some sort of ancient mechanical construction located on Janus that had awakened from its slumber, and the anomalies occurring on Janus have been caused by the blasphemous machine trying to start itself. Alright, so we have shelter. Janus' orbit is swarming with a fleet of refugees. By turning the entire world into an enormous staging point, the Rogue Trader will save billions of lives. To give us Merciful Savior. Each time an ally is healed in combat, the damage of this ally is increased by 4% until the end of combat, and it stacks. We'll get 18 people. Forbidden Planet. Janus' orbit is swarming with a fleet of refugees. However, their descent to the planet would be disastrous. Nobody must learn of the construction of the Xenovivisectory, the study of Eldari culture and technology. This will give us Xenovivisectionist. All allies gain 12% dodge against Xenos. And Pleasure World. Janus' orbit is swarming with a fleet of refugees. By welcoming the aristocrats among them on the planet and turning it into a resort, the Rogue Trader will gain favor in the higher circles. Get Watcher from above. The wielder of this sword gains a plus 25% bonus to dodge and a 25% bonus to parry. Enemies hit by the sword will suffer minus 25 penalty to their weapon skill until the wielder's next turn. And 5 profit factor. So I know that I have Avlard equipped with a two-handed weapon. And that's pretty good. I think I put that Inferno pistol into the cargo. Yeah, I think we'll go with Shelter. I could see an argument made for Forbidden Planet. So I don't heal in combat, so that's practically useless to me. Unless it procs with temporary wounds, which I assume it doesn't. Let's go with Forbidden Planet. I think the dogmatic option here is to make sure that the Imperium, at least the lay people of the Imperium, are ignorant to Xenos, at least as much as, they can be. So grab this, and it costs 2 mechanisms, 2 Xenotech, and 2 Phlogiston. And we'll do Scriptorium Schools as well. It is possible to teach the serfs to read, and thus educate enlightened servants under the supervision of monks. Lose 2 profit factor, gain 3 efficiency, and 9 people. It costs 3 provisions. Your lordship, a monster storm has broken out on Janus. The apocalyptic anomalies are tearing our agri-world apart, and their epicenter is in the desecrated sector. Something must be done before the whole colony is destroyed. We have to find the source of this madness. We'll calm down and report what exactly is happening there. The fires in the sky that crash on the ground and turn everything around them into ice. The moaning earth. The deadly sound careening through the cities. The purple glow in the sky. The furious storm has covered half the continent. We can see its epicenter from the orbit. The ruins of a xenostructure complex. What we thought to be debris of buildings turned out to be a machine. Now it rouses from its sleep, shining the blue and purple lights from the spheres melted onto it. It is relatively safe only in those parts of the desecrated sector that have been scarred by our weapons. For some reason, there are fewer anomalies than in other places. The deadly spirits have become more material. Now everyone can see that they are not dancing, they are fighting. Fighting and chanting two names, Halcyon and Kesai. Thankfully, there are much less of them than there were before. Gaps have even appeared in the horrifying cyclone of dance twisting about the epicenter. What do we know about this cataclysm? The leader of the Inquisitor squad, Lady Zhu, did not grace us with a full report, as she has been hastily preparing for the expedition into the heart of the anomaly. But she mysteriously claims that we've become the witnesses of an ancient clash between Xenos, and in spite of our unfamiliarity with their conflict, it is important to choose our ally in this struggle wisely, whatever that means. All the wretches in custody have instantaneously gone mad. We cannot pull a modicum of information from them, even though we have a sense that they understand what is happening much better than we do. My people shall help Lady Zhu break into the heart of the storm. The escort squad reports that the people of Lady Zhu demonstrate incredible skill, investigating the anomalies and advancing toward the epicenter. Our people have reached the Xenos ruins that once served as either a palace or a gargantuan machine. They've encountered an extremely high concentration of spirits. It appears the spirits are fighting among themselves with two particularly vivid ghostly figures among them. One of these prominent spirits radiates blue light, and seems to be clad in Eldari armor. The other is engulfed in purple flames, and clad in a Xenos ceremonial raiment. The utter sounds reminiscent of Eldari speech, but any attempts to translate them have proved unsuccessful thus far. What does it matter what those spirits are babbling about? They both must be slain. 8 Vader, turn to your warriors and inspire them to fight for their home to the very last. They've already made sacrifices to get this far, so remind them what those sacrifices were for. Lady Zhu intends to fight both sides of this spirit conflict, but your soldiers are waiting for you to confirm her orders. Tell my warriors they are fighting for Janus' future, one where the world is free from vengeful Xenos, and that their Lord Captain is watching. Filled with courage, the Rogue Trader's warriors charged forth as if their sovereign was at their side. Their wounds, exhaustion, and losses forgotten, they each fought with the strength of 4 soldiers and exterminated the spirits, both blue and purple alike. The anomaly stopped ravaging Janus. A group of explorers carefully approached the site of the battle and began gathering evidence to shed some light on the recent events. Piecing together the knowledge that they had gathered, they were able to retrace the history of this world. The planet, which was inhabited by the Eldari prior to the fall, at some point became one of the many theaters of the war between sensual excess, the dogma that reigned over the Xenos of that time, and ascetic self-restraint. A local ruler, Kesai, was enlightened and wise, yet susceptible to depravity. In his desire to transfer his soul to another form of existence, he created a mechanism that would let him take over the bodies and minds of all his people. One of the ruler's bodyguards named Halcyon rose against the tyrant and mortally wounded him, but could not stop him from merging with the machine. Halcyon then gave his life to bind his own spirit to the device, and continue fighting therein. This tragic conflict marked the end of all Eldari on the planet, but preserved an echo of their souls and those of their leaders. Kiava Gamma. We're not at the next stage of this one yet. Alright, let's do Moving World. It is possible to utilize all of Kiava Gamma's potential by covering its surface in a huge electu. The whole world will be wrapped in a grandiose potential coil. What do I want this instead? Archive of the Expanse. The Kiava Gamma will become the main data repository of the Expanse. Thousands of scribes register cargo, and the lenses of watchful cogitators process myriads of documents. We'll get Eye of the Omnissiah. Provides woodchip weapons with targeting data, granting 92% hit chance and 15% critical hit chance, which is 2% more hit chance than our current. Is it an auger array? And 5% less critical hit chance. Plus you get 4 profit factor and 3 efficiency for all colonies. Let's do this one instead. Surprised we don't have enough reputation with them yet. This one we won't be able to do because we didn't do that project. So with the power of plasma, since we can't do it, we'll read it first. Euphrates 2 is lost, and the Adeptus Mechanicus now turns its gaze upon Kiava Gamma. The world can become a sacred assembly line for plasma drives endowed with the Emperor's grace. This would give us Sacrament of Light. It's possible this is on Evivo 6. So we could still do this one, possibly. We'll have to look at it. So I won't make a choice here yet. Sacrament of Light. An engine assembled by a mysterious clique of engine elders. A countenance hidden by veils of open-work plasteel, and whose wisdom is so great, the servants below the rank of Magos are forbidden from even addressing them. This plasma drive provides 15 speed, along with average acceleration and braking. And Warp Revelations, we just need more reputation with the Explorators. Euphrates 2 is lost, and the Adeptus Mechanicus now turns its gaze upon Kiava Gamma. The world can be turned into a research complex for warp technologies, too sacred to be widely publicized. This will give us plus 5 profit factor, minus 3 security, and an ethereal visor. The wearer side ratings increase by plus 1. As long as the wearer has 100% wounds, they deal % additional damage with their psychic powers and psyker staffs. I'm assuming that applies to Heinrich's sword. And Sky Barrier. Euphrates 2 is lost, and the Adeptus Mechanicus now turns its gaze upon Kiava Gamma. The world can become a manufactorum for the creation of mighty void weaponry. So we'll get Exalted Instruments of War. All allies gain plus 20% minimum damage to their ranged attacks. The Rogue Trader's weapons carry the blessings of the Supreme Armorers of the Adeptus Mechanicus. We'll also get Triumphant Fury. A serpent of embossed lines coils around the barrels of these holy weapons. A complete chronicle of the exploration of the systems called the Lathe Worlds by the servants of the Omnissiah. Medium-range broadside macro cannons which fire 5 shots, dealing 30 damage per shot. That's better than what we have. That's 150 damage. 20,000 reputation with the Explorators. I think it's worth it for that alone. And 21 weapons. It will cost us 6 plasteel, 3 mechanisms, 3 chemicals, and 3 adamantine. So I don't know that my character would lean into researching warp technologies. This would be okay. I'm going to go with this one, though. I feel like my character would lean more towards the military research. And I think it's the best one, so. And we'll go ahead and execute Moving World as well. It is possible to utilize all of Kiava Gamma's potential by covering its surface. Oh, we just read that. We get plus 4 security, plus 4 efficiency. It costs 3 promethium, mechanisms, chemicals, and phlogiston. Lord Captain, there's an active sabotage on Kiava Gamma. The cult of the Final Dawn has invaded the planet, cultivated a pack of schismaticals in the bowels of the manufactorums, and set them upon us. The attack was so sudden that we almost lost all the workshops, but we had help. Some entities, already being called Data Angels, have invaded the cogitational network, seized the cogitators and servitors, and used them to repel the first onslaught of the schismaticals. Now there is a fierce struggle taking place all over the planet. The new sphere of the world is boiling. How did the cultists infiltrate my world? This was a part of a coordinated attack that hit the entire expanse. The heretics must have spent huge amounts of time on preparations. Thanks to the fact that the planet had been thoroughly purged of the corrupting influence of Cubus Delphum, the cult now has nowhere to hide and no collaborators on the planet. They have utterly failed to compromise our world's defenses. But what do we know about these data angels? Not much. They're machine spirits, beings born from the art of data smithing. They charge into battle chanting the same binaric mantra that the participants of Procedure 0C chanted. But there are not many nodes where they can reside, perhaps because we destroyed the cells used in Procedure 0C. This is quite beneficial to us, if we will not accept the help of these strange creatures. I wish to hear the opinions of my officers and advisors. There are backup cogitators located in the Kiava Gamma's manufactorums to ensure the continuity of production in case of an accident. The severity of the situation would call for disrupting the service algorithms, and I am prepared to sanction a ritual that will allow the data angels of the Omnissiah to absorb the cogitators' computing power and combat these wicked spirits. Yeah, we'll take Pascal's advice. Pascal, sanction the ritual of bonding with the backup cogitators. Your request to perform the sacrament is accepted. It shall be fulfilled immediately. Having gained access to the cogitational reserves, and after being flushed with power, the data angels charge at the schismaticals. The hordes of data spirits have been tech exercised and exterminated, and the afflicted mechanisms purged and restored. The tech priests gave praise to the Omnissiah for protecting the production algorithm from severe disruption. After exiling the schismaticals, the data angels have retreated into hiding inside the cogitational networks, leaving the servants of the Omnissiah only to guess at who or what these beings were. Your Lordship, a cryptic message arrived from Kiava Gamma. The Fabricator Center reports that they have beheld the Eye of the Divine. I requested details from your less devout servants. They clarified that the Inquest Group, which has been investigating the many inexplicable events that have taken place on the planet, followed a trail of mysterious binaric harmonics and came upon an ancient and abandoned data complex. It is connected to the manufactorum by a maze of communication lines and contains a gargantuan data loom. The mechanism's markings show that its designation, or I should say its rather menacing name, is No Calif. No Calif is immersed in sacred astrogational calculation and showed no inclination to make contact. The tech priests that connected to it were punished for the intrusion with a lethal injection from their motive force. Sorry, of there, not from there. The only thing they managed to find out is that the spirit of the data loom is not bound with the vows of compliance, though normally restrain a machine spirit of such power. This astoundingly mighty entity bows to no one, driven only by its own aims. What is this abandoned complex? It is an ancient production facility, far older than the colony itself. Some assembly lines bear the marks of the Cognizance fleet. Perhaps the first explorators who came to the expanse set up the Cronus expanse, set up a station on the yet uninhabited planet. The station was then consumed by the developing industrial colony, and eventually forgotten. It is possible that whatever plans they had for it were so clandestine that its creator's death ended up casting it into oblivion. The directory contains no data to support this hypothesis. It does, however, contain the designation No Calif. The No Calif initiative is a project of the fabled Archimagos Opticon 107, whose function was the initial exploration of the Cronus expanse. All information on this project was removed from the directory as per the Fleet Conclave's decree following Permissibility Hearing 16. By that same decree, Archimagos Opticon 107 was stripped of his title as the Conclave's Prolocutor Supremus. I want to know more about this data loom. What is it? A sacred computational mechanism of great power. Its body is vast, and the wisdom and metal of its machine spirit would befit an Imperial Titan. Machines of such might and splendor are kept carefully hidden from the eyes of the laity, and worshipped on certain planets as great Logis oracles, or Logis oracles. Sacred angels of the Omnissiah, or demigods. No Calif's structure includes remarkable pieces of archaeotech, parts of it extending far throughout Kiava Gamma like a void kraken's tentacles. We now know where the warp transmitter modified by Cubus Delphum came from. It must have been part of this mechanism. The data angels that we encountered earlier were born of its computational might. Full of vigor, they soar around his computational aura, which radiates into the new sphere. The response to our presence has been favorable thus far. Do we have any idea at all what it might be calculating? All we have is a hypothesis, according to which No Calif can see into the warp, similar to a navigator. Any interaction between technology and the warp is, as you are well aware, kept under the careful supervision of the Adeptus Mechanicus, so you can imagine just how unique this mechanism is. According to the Magi, it can calculate routes through the immaterium without rest or fear of corruption, given the fact that it has no human soul. That's not true. Machines can be corrupted by the warp. They claim that its power is comparable to that of a novator of a navigator house. Apparently, Procedure 0C was initiated by this mechanism to integrate Magi with high psychic potential in order to expand its own computational capacity. Right now, its calculations are severely hindered due to the weakened state of its computational powers. We assume the termination of Procedure 0C contributed to this. Have we tried communicating with it? The Great Calculator seems indifferent to mortals. It has expressed a lack of desire to interact with us or destroy us. We have studied the Nuspheric remains of the tech priests who dared to reach out to No Calif. Their minds contained excerpts from the dictates of Procedure 0C. These traces were brimming with anger. What do my advisors make of this? The Great Machine Spirit that identifies itself as No Calif bears potential as a valuable ally, when they could replace the need for navigators comprised of fallible flesh. We must make contact with this holy entity, for to do so is to honor the Omnissiah's tenets. That the tech priests who had the audacity to disturb No Calif were deprived of their motive force is a testament to the might of its data voice. I hold the knowledge to create a mediator that could interface with the fearsome machine spirit and ease the burden of its revelations on unprepared minds. A navigator data loom. This abomination makes a mockery of every navigator house's legacy. The very fact of its existence is profoundly sickening and vile. No Calif must be destroyed post-haste. Allow me to send word to the other navigator houses. They'll waste no time in dispatching their forces to destroy this monstrosity. Okay, so the navigator houses were established by the Emperor, and I'm thinking that this machine may be the Mechanicus overreaching. So I'm going to side with Cassia here. Plus, we already tried to stop the Procedure 0C that it was trying to enact anyway, so we'll just follow down that path. Cassia, send word to the navigator houses. No Calif must be destroyed. Oh, we failed. Thank you, your lordship. To send servants to your astropath at once. The united army of navigators arrived when Kiava Gamma brought its wrath down upon the powerful data station. Many have perished under its frenzied gaze brimming with warp energy, although their sacrifice saved many lives of the righteous servants of the Omnissiah. Unfortunately, the data station has been seized. Even the power of a binaric demigod was not enough to oppose the rogue traitor. But before its resistance was broken, the eye of the divine turned its gaze to the planet's manufactorums, and horrific warp manifestations claimed the lives of thousands, even disfiguring the manufactorums themselves. The blessed boards are carefully detached from the processing unit, forever ending No Calif's contemplations. These ancient cogitation modules will now serve the machine spirit of the Lord Captain's ship. Alright, Dargonus, what do we got? Let's do Bastion. By declaring Dargonus the defense center of the Kronos Expanse, the Rogue Trader will be able to requisition foreign vessels and collect additional resources from the population. We get the Battle Mastery feature. The Rogue Traders receive some of the best munitions and supplies for the defense of the Expanse, a +2 to the plating of all sectors. We get 7 provisions, 12 people, 7 mechanisms, and 7 weapons at the cost... Oh, just requirements, no costs. Alright, since we can't afford this one, and I'll probably go with this one anyway. A Society of Cartographers. A new entry in the Annals of Dargonus begins with provision of patronage to all fearless conquerors of the Expanse. So give us Woebringer. A blade found on a drifting ship whose crew had been slaughtered by mysterious Xenos. Holding its hilt braided with warm, still-living skin, your ears ring with the lamentations of the dying. This weapon has an additional shove attack action that pushes enemies away. If an enemy cannot be pushed, Wielder is pushed away instead. This attack deals additional Wielder's agility bonus damage. Then we also -3 profit factor, 12,000 reputation with the Imperial Navy. That might be worth it. 12 Xenotech, 12 Adamantine, and 12 Phlogiston. The Librarium. A new entry in the Annals of Dargonus. The foundation of a vast repository of secrets and knowledge. Only the aristocracy and the highest ranks will have access to its halls. So give us Echo of Victory. Whenever the wearer attacks any target in a 5-cell radius around them with a ranged weapon, its attack deals % more damage. Also get 4 profit factor and 20,000 reputation with the Casbala Commission. And then the Scola Progenium. A new entry in the Annals of Dargonus. The fate of the millions of orphans whose parents fell in the fire that gripped the Expanse. Roleplay-wise, this seems like the best one, since my character also attended that school. This will give us the Loyalist Garb. If the wearer is not moved during their turn, their cover efficiency is increased by 20% for 1 round. If the wearer moves at least 3 cells per turn, they gain 20% dodge for 1 round. A base armor property plus 20% dodge against ranged attacks. I think that'd be good on Jai. -5 profit factor, we get +3 efficiency and security for all colonies and 21 people. It costs 6 provisions and 6 weapons. Dargonus cries for help, Lord Captain. Riots over the interpretation of scripture have broken out in several hives across the world. While hunting for the agents of the cult of the Final Dawn, the ecclesiarchy began reigning in the minor cults, attempting to force upon them the correct adherence to the creed. The commoners whisper of oppression of the minor cults, even daring to claim that the holy pastors have assumed the sole right to speak for the God Emperor. Many of the disgruntled flee to the ruins of the Scipione hive, since the Brigadier clan has promised protection and support. It is even said that the Brigadier supplied the rebels with weapons converted from the industrial equipment in case of large-scale clashes. The enforcers and the agents of the ecclesiarchy have been able to curb the rebels so far, but division grows wider by the day. Why are the Brigadiers involved in this as well? A great question, Lord Captain. This group often comes up in the reports from the capital world. I can assume that this is due to the fact that in their own I can assume that this is due to the fact that in their now ruined home, Scipione, they used to have a prevalent, more simplistic form of revering the Emperor. The preachers there have been preaching much about the importance of work and the labor community's familial unity, but they mention very little about the importance of order and hierarchy. They have granted their congregation a form of faith that is simple, cheap, convenient, and functional as their work clothes. And now they seem to think that the priests, who are swimming in luxury, want to take this away from them. Is there any reason to believe that the disturbances are inspired by heretics? Thankfully, no, your lordship. The rebels zealously oppose heresy, actively fill the ranks of Planetary Guard with the new recruits, regularly outperform quotas, and attend prayer service. The Brigadier clan has been actively involved in uncovering the underground devotees of the ruinous powers, and has discovered 2 large, successfully operating cells. Our agents are quite confident that the likelihood of infiltration by agents from the cult of the Final Dawn is far less likely than in other segments of the population. I'd like to hear what my advisors have to say. Small deviances in the creed give birth to large ones, and the large ones to heresy. The basis of our beliefs lies in the absolute trust of those above us. And if their beliefs push them toward revolt, that means that these tenets have been wicked from the very beginning. But it does not make the priests wicked. They could simply have been misguided. Cast them into the ecclesiarchy's care for re-education, so that they may see the truth, and guarantee their flock's obedience. Shireen, perhaps you should stop allowing the fat cardinals and their servants to do whatever they want to your people. Rein them in. The faith in the Exalted One is not contained within ranks and titles, but within the hearts and hands of the common people. Even this can take many forms as well. Let those who shoulder the welfare of Dargonus to at least choose in which manner they pray to him. Take the minor cults under your protection. So the minor cults are actually allowed in the Imperium. The Imperium is too vast to ensure that everybody worships the exact same way, so they usually just kind of integrate the Imperial faith into local faith, not unlike Christianity and many polytheistic religions. But I think my character would probably lean towards Abelard's. So Jais gives us +1 complacency, 5,000 reputation with the Fellowship of the Void, and Patron of Cults. All allies gain +15 lore Imperium. And Abelard's gives us +1 security, a Book of Minor Prayers. The wearer cannot use Psychic or Navigator powers. The wearer suffers a lore Imperium % less warp damage, and the wearer gains a lore Imperium % chance to ignore any effect inflicted by Psychic or Navigator powers. And 5,000 reputation with the Drusians, which I want more, because they have the power armor that I want. So detain the priests of these troublemakers, and send them to be re-educated. Good. The hostages will keep their flock from making rash decisions. The enforcers firmly disperse the crowds with shock, batons, and choke gas. They burst into the chapels of the condemned cults, beat the acolytes, smashed any sacred symbols deemed unorthodox, and smothered the dangerous embers of spiritual disunion looming over the planet. The relics that were not an affront to the God Emperor were confiscated. The disobedient pastors are shackled and brought into the sanctuaries of the ecclesiarchy to learn the true meaning of the creed through humility and obedience. Their flock, intimidated by unspoken threats of violent reprisals against their spiritual leaders, have since calmed down. Travel news from Dargonus, your lordship. Your vigilant servants have discovered an abscess of treachery on our capital world, one that has grown far too large and could rupture at any moment. The informants report that the group should be known as the Brigadier clan is actually a cover for a horrendous cult of genetic degenerates. We currently have their people in every echelon of the hive. They are traitors to the purity of humanity, traitors to the creed, rebels and heretics. So I'm guessing Genestealers? Huh. Well, it's a good thing I didn't side with them. So the minor cults were actually... That also happens. So the Genestealers will infiltrate a hive city or hive world, and they create minor cults worshipping the Emperor. But with any sort of scrutiny, you'll see they're worshipping an Emperor that has 4 arms or whatever other genetic anomalies. And they slowly corrupt the populace from within, so when the Hive Fleet shows up, they can revolt and help the Hive Fleet have an easier time taking over the planet. What exactly did my people find out? One tenacious clerk from the Administratum had questioned the authenticity of the reports coming from the ruins of Scipione 84-249. He personally attended the debris removal and entered the lower levels of the fallen hive. There he discovered signs that proved Scipione to be infected by the gene plague. Thousands of corpses of the extra-armed degenerates had been buried in a mass grave. He'd also found the remains of Achilles Scalander's people. It seems that they had noticed the signs of corruption, and the traitors, aiming to cover up their crimes, buried their misdeeds under the ruins of the hive. On the way back, the clerk's transport was destroyed, and he miraculously managed to survive. Now the heretics think that they have covered their tracks once more, so they continue their plots, oblivious and prepared for our attack. But what is this mutant plague that has affected our capital? A horrendous distortion of the human image. It seems that they spread their poison by biting and enslaving the victims. Some of them are indistinguishable from normal humans, while others are disgustingly ugly. The heretics hide them away from prying eyes. They seem to be connected by a common consciousness and are absolutely loyal to the despicable cult. The astropathic choirmaster of Dargonus has suggested that the cult may be behind the extermination of the Psychers on the planet. He can sense the ghost of a powerful consciousness of some sort. That's the hive mind. So the Tyranids, wherever they go, they create what's called a shadow in the warp. They kind of block out warp powers. Because their hive mind is more powerful than that little section of the warp. But they don't use the warp to travel. They just kind of float through space and get where they need to go. The astropaths that we have forced to serve on the Dargonus are afraid. They do not wish to become a living shield if the enemy launches another psi assault at us. I'm afraid that this line in our defense is quite fragile. The Brigadier clan is a cover for this disgusting cult. Indeed, they have probably started to recruit the workers. It is easy to get lost among them. Disguising themselves as technomats, they gain a cover for their secret operations and infiltration into the upper echelons of power. Each crisis allowed them to gain our trust, receive our resources. And the most despicable of all is that they have corrupted our beliefs as well. They revere the God Emperor in the image of a four-armed abomination. Like I said, their prayers are full of hatred toward those in power, and promises of a reckoning where their dreadful deity will come and equate them with their oppressors. With us, that is. Many fools and troublemakers have fallen for their lies. Living alone in the labor settlements of the ruined Scipione, they gained the ability to act with impunity. But at least their plague has proved weaker than others, and the hive has been minimally infected. The suppression of the minor cults dealt them a harsh blow. By returning the flock to a loyal stable, we've cut down the possible amount of their new recruits. Heinrichs, what are those mutants? They are called Genestealers, and they're not simple mutants. They are a Xenos plague that breeds inside the human brain, forever distorting their genetic makeup and enslaving them to the brood. This is much more threatening than the Drukhari fleet that ravaged the capital earlier. If they are on Dargonus, they will try to overtake the entire planet sooner or later. What forces do they have at their disposal? The heretics mostly consist of workers, but some have infiltrated the guard as well. The weapons are primarily made by repurposing industrial machinery. The cultists are fearless and will readily sacrifice themselves for the sake of their common goal. But the worst part is their psychic threat. We cannot even begin to gauge it. If we would not have crushed the engine vandals, they could have joined the ranks of the cult. But at least we could ward off this particular threat in time. We have to act. Absolutely right. It is impossible to negotiate with the degenerates. Sorry, it's a lot of reading. Our only option is to completely annihilate them. We should start from the top. Should we attack decisively and quickly, or should we expose ourselves by bringing our heavy weapons into the capital and gain an advantage in firepower? To quietly eliminate their leaders, or to hit the infected territories and cleanse them of traitors? Dawdle, raise the people to battle, and publicly proclaim war. Tell the people that the heretics are hiding among them, and the millions of loyal subjects will grind the thousands of traitors to dust. May Dargonus cleanse itself of this filth. I do think that's the best idea, because Genestealers thrive on secrecy, and being able to lay low and build up their power. But if everyone's aware of them, they can start fighting back and, notice the signs. The cleansing should be thorough. Ever since the Xenos scum attacked your world, the wrecks of downed ships float everywhere in orbit. Connect them with your ships and send them flying towards the nest of this spawn trying to encroach on your domain. Since all of them are linked by a common will, we could start by launching our attack there. If the astropathic choir could drown out the voice of the brood, we'd be able to launch a sudden strike and act quickly enough before the enemy would be able to restore cohesion and inform each other of the assault. I'm going to go with Argenta's option. Argenta is right. We'll announce an eternal enemy to the people. They should come to the aid of the enforcers who will be attacking in full force. May the mutant heretics perish in the cleansing flames. At the appointed time, the hives of Dargonus shook from the thunderous tread of military machinery. An army of enforcers came to wage war on the mutant heretics. The heretics, having time to prepare their defenses, could not match the Planetary Guard's weaponry. The enforcers were supported by an enraged mob, led by a fanatically howling priest. The fight has quickly devolved into a bloody riot. The inhabitants of the hives readily threw their support behind the enforcers after watching them severely punish the minor cults. The lesson in obedience had been learned, and the volunteers hoped to obtain some spoils from the losing side. Everything was over after one planetary cycle. The filthy shrines and the heretic sanctuaries were set ablaze, the cult's agents mercilessly exterminated, and the rest of the degenerate strength crushed amid street battles. Only one thing made the rogue trader servants feel a sense of unease. Inside the cult's main temple, they found a hatchery for some grotesquely enormous monster. It was empty. They did not find the beast. If the Emperor had been merciful to Dargonus, then the monster had perished in the fires. Yeah, I read that right. I thought this said rogue trader. It had perished in the fires that had engulfed the hives during that cycle. We got a tainted phylactery. Winner gains % critical hit chance against Xenos. Alright, and we'll do Pleasing the Tired. The Adeptus Administratum's vanity may be indulged through the construction of a floating palace filled with helpful serfs and exquisite pleasures. Get +4 complacency and efficiency. It costs 2 promethium, 2 provisions, 2 adamantine, and 2 phlogiston. Alright, Vibo 6. Corruption has infiltrated Vibo 6, Lord Captain. The cultists of the cult... That's redundant. The cultists of the Cult of the Final Dawn have agitated the convicts into a full-blown uprising. Promise them a chance at escape. The planet's cargo port and warden facilities are now under siege. The cult conspirators do not personally participate in the assault. Not too long ago, they scurried into the mines, deep into the tunnels rife with Xenos corruption. The security posts that we set up in those mining drifts reported a skirmish and then went silent. Why did the cultists go to that particular place? Unfortunately, we do not know the true objectives of the heretics, but there is nary a doubt that they are pursuing a sinister and wicked goal, and therefore must be stopped. What is the current situation on the surface? The wardens are trapped inside the security facilities, and the convicts are now united by their common hatred for the dynasty and are obsessed with the tales of freedom. I'd like to hear what my advisors have to say. Heretics seek out those who are weak of spirit and entice them with promises of salvation. But such spineless lot lacks the resolve to fight and will drop their weapons should someone give them a reason to fear. The purpose of many tactics in warfare is to sow terror in the enemy ranks. And I know some of these tactics will. Make them quiver, 8 Vader, and those weaklings will forget all about their heinous intentions. Lord Captain, your resources and status allow you to make use of one of the most blunt and affordable tools of all, mercenaries. These dogs of war would be ready and willing to go inside the warp if you paid them well enough. Provide the wardens with some backup from their ranks, and the crisis will be over in mere moments. Alright, so if we do this, -1 efficiency and a trampled cult banner. Enemies that are targeted by the wearer's psychic abilities must pass a willpower resistance test with a -15 penalty, or suffer bleeding 10 and blinded. And for Ulfar, we get Fiend of Vibo 6. All allies gain +10 coercion. Whenever an enemy enters a 5-cell radius zone around the rogue trader or their allies, this enemy must pass a willpower resistance test with a +5 bonus or become staggered for 1 turn. If 2 or more allies are close enough to trigger this effect, the enemy must pass a resistance test for each of these allies. That's pretty good. And that'll give us +1 deflection on my main character with that new armor that he has. And for Abelard, we lose 1 profit factor and tempered by the quarries. After their admirable performance on the battles of Evo 6, the mercenaries are eager to serve the rogue trader. Many among them are seasoned combatants who can man the void ship cannons. All lance weapons deal plus 20% more damage. I'm going to side with Ulfar. I don't think my character, having previously been in the Imperial Guard, has much respect for mercenaries. But he understands fear, especially as a commissar. So Ulfar, show my people how to instill fear in their enemies. Ha! I shall teach them some secrets of this art. Following the advice given by the formidable Space Wolf, the Wardens carried out a series of reprisals and acts of intimidation, leaving behind mutilated corpses and infiltrating the rebel camp under the cover of darkness. They have crushed the rebels' morale and forced them to surrender their weapons. The leaders of conspiracy, the cultists from the Cult of the Final Dawn, are trapped in the mines. They have surrounded a strange dark Xeno obelisk, covered with glyphs, trying to awaken it from its slumber. The glyphs on it were similar to those that the mad convicts were drawing. The monstrous construction contained enough energy to tear the planet apart. By heroically disrupting the cultists' plans, the Guard have disrupted the terrible machine. Instead of exploding, the obelisk emitted a blistering heat wave, melting itself and turning those around it to ash. Vibo 6 had been saved. Alright, so we have Earthbreaker. It's a little shy of that. Alright, so Earthbreaker. The blessed hydraulic installation of the Adeptus Mechanicus will crush the greedy bowels of the earth, freeing the priceless minerals within that the Imperium so desperately needs. And Extractium Agnifera. The open pit mining of Fanceranium will be a blow to Vibo 6's population, but bring in enormous profit. So we're not going to do Raider Base, even if we could afford it. Vibo 6. A quiet haven, especially for the Expanse's pirates. It's time to capitalize on this. This will give us 21 weapons, 5 security, 2,500 reputation with the Fellowship of the Void, and freedom and vengeance. The magnificent bracelets of the pirate leader Hermanios were once slave shackles. After starting a mutiny and forging a crew out of the prisoners aboard the captured convict transport, Hermanios had the chains decorated with gold and crystals. The glorious rebel leader presented them to the rogue trader as a token of respect. Whenever the wearer performs a non-burst attack with a pistol, that attack pushes the enemy by 2 cells. If the wearer kills an enemy with a pistol attack, they immediately reload it. Each pistol reload grants 5% critical hit chance for pistol attacks. Palaces for the Outcasts. Vibo 6, the frontier of the Expanse. Outcasts and exiles will find peace and tranquility here, in the right conditions. So give us Master of the Shadowy Expanse. The Rogue Trader gains plus 10 intelligence, fellowship, and willpower, and 7 profit factor. And Repentance of the Lost. Vibo 6, a quiet haven where one should mind the state of their soul. A fortress of repentance complete with an order of battle flagellants is a worthy use of the planet. They give us the Voice of Paduvian. This glorious blade is forged from the wreckage of the great bell of the shrine world Paduvian, whose formidable voice rang out with implacable zeal, but was silenced when the vile dogs of Erlon the Cruel consigned Paduvian to the flame. Okay. Also gives us 7 security and 2,500 reputation with the Drusians. So we can't do that yet. So let's do Earthbreaker. We just read it. It gives us 12 plasteel, 6 adamantine, costs 5 mechanisms, and 5 phlogiston. Which is all of our phlogiston. We're not going to do the next one yet, because I'm not sure if that'll block off our last project. I don't think that it does. Alright, real quick, let's go see if we can get more reputation with the Drusians. It's tough reading that much. I'm a pretty quick reader, and so when I'm reading dialogue out loud, I have to purposely slow myself down. but the more that I read, the more it gets away from me. And so in my mind, I'm reading faster than my mouth can keep pace with. That's why I end up like swapping words out for what I think should be there or what have you. And I'm also, wait, we're maxed out with these guys? Just about. No, we are maxed out. We just need more profit factor. Okay. Well, we'll deal with that next time. I'm not going to grab this stuff right now. We only need a couple thousand more. Yeah. Almost 3,000 more to get that last project. Okay. Oh, cool. I'm gonna call it here, and next time we'll grab all the loot we got, we'll read all of it, and then we'll continue pursuing rumors. I'm not gonna do any more reading this episode. I think that was enough. So, I'm gonna call it here. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you guys in the next one.